Hey guys, I'm the Comics Kid 2099 and I'm going to talk about a book that I read this week, The Eternals, To Slay a God. And this book is written by the Knopfs, Charles and Daniel Knopf. They are a father-son writing team, and it is drawn by Daniel Acuna. And I gotta say, the art is pretty good. I've read Acuna's art somewhere before. I've seen it somewhere before, and I can't quite remember where I've seen it. It doesn't say on the back, like here it says that the Knopfs wrote Iron Man together, but then it doesn't say where Acuna has done stuff before. But I know I've seen that artwork somewhere. Probably, now that I think about it, it might have been in an X-Men miniseries, like a short story. I think that's maybe where I've seen some of Acuna's art. It also looks very similar to another guy, the guy who drew Silent War, but it's not the same guy. As far as this book, is this any good? I'm gonna say it's okay. If you've read the Neil Gaiman miniseries, which this is a sequel to that, it picks up a lot of the threads from the Neil Gaiman miniseries. If you've read that miniseries, I'm gonna say this book is a little bit of a disappointment. Before reading the Neil Gaiman miniseries, I had almost no exposure to the Eternals. I think I had read one issue of the Avengers from the 1980s that had some of the Eternals in it, and beyond that, I really didn't know anything about the mythology behind this series, and I really didn't know anything about the characters. And then I read the miniseries by Gaiman, and I really loved it, and then I saw this somewhere, and I got it, and I was expecting it to be pretty good. And it starts off, at first I was thinking, okay, this is just going to be a very standard good versus evil story. And then it throws a few things into the mix, and I'm like, oh, that's very interesting, and I'm very interested to see where this goes. And then it goes right back to being kind of mediocre. I don't want to say it goes right back to being a standard good versus evil story, but it doesn't do anything with those things that I was very interested in around the end of issue 2. I guess I'm going to have to spoil this because otherwise it's going to be very confusing for me trying to talk about what I liked and didn't like without talking about spoilers. So if you still want to read this book, then turn this video off now because I am going to spoil. Thena, the character Thena, who, let me see, is she on here? Yeah, it's this blonde woman right here. She has a human son, because if you read the Gaiman miniseries, all of the Eternals, they basically had amnesia and they thought they were human beings. And some of them, for instance, Thena, she had her own life as a human being, and she had a kid with an actual human being. And that kid, he features pretty popularly in this book, or pretty prominently rather, and he is possessed by a bad guy. And I don't entirely know what the bad guy is. I don't think it's exactly explained here. It was kind of hinted that it was an evil celestial from millions and millions of years ago, and personally I think that would have been the way to go, have the celestial be back and kind of trying to manipulate events from behind the scenes. I think that would have been a very interesting way to take things, but I don't think that was the celestial. I think we are told that that's not what it is, that it's something else that possesses creatures and then bonds to them, but I don't think it's really explained what it is, but it's not the celestial, which personally, whenever it's revealed that the little boy, Joey, is a spy and that he's spying on the Eternals in their headquarters and stuff, I was thinking, okay, it has to be the Celestial, because the Dreaming Celestial was telling Makari, however you say his name, the Dreaming Celestial was telling him about millions of years ago when the leader of the Celestials was wanting them to destroy planet Earth, and then the Dreaming Celestial kind of turned on all of them. That was kind of, I thought that was foreshadowing. I thought, okay, they're foreshadowing that this kid is possessed by that Celestial. No, it's just a separate event that really had nothing to do with that evil Celestial, and there was really no reason for that story to be told in this book. My big problem with this book, if you read the Gaiman miniseries, it is a complete story. Now, it does feel like it's setting things up for an ongoing series, which it was, but it is a complete story. It starts with the status quo, it breaks that status quo, and by the end of the book it has a different status quo that is going to be explored by the Knopfs in this miniseries, or in this ongoing, rather. But it's complete. This is not complete. This spends 6 issues kind of doing stuff, but it doesn't really complete anything. It's setting up some big battle between Druig, which is kind of a combination between Doctor Doom and Loki. I guess that's the best way to describe him. It's setting up this big war between Druig and his Eternals and Zuros and his Eternals, which I thought that it was going to do something with that in this 6 issues, and it doesn't do anything with it. And then you've got this other Eternal, Ajak. He has kind of corrupted Gilgamesh, and he's kind of doing his own thing. And all this stuff is happening in the span of 6 issues, but ultimately nothing gets resolved. Now, I know that there is another trade paperback after this one. I don't remember what it's called, but it only collects like 5 issues. I think there's an annual and then 4 normal issues. I can't imagine that anything actually gets resolved in that length of time, because in 6 issues, nothing actually gets resolved, which is disappointing because in 7 issues, Gaiman was able to do so much with these characters and with this concept, and then with 6 issues, the Knopfs don't really do anything at all. They set up some interesting stuff. I thought it was very interesting that Ajak was kind of turning on the Eternals. I thought it was very interesting that Thena's son was spying on the Eternals, but ultimately nothing is done with any of that. By the end of this book, spoiler, the Eternals do not know that Ajak has turned on them. Druig knows that he has turned on the others, but he's not doing anything with this information. I thought whenever we found out that Ajak was kind of working behind the scenes against everybody, I thought that Zuros and his group were going to team up with Druig and his group to fight Ajak for some reason. I thought Ajak was going to start doing something that would ultimately prove to be very dangerous to everyone on planet Earth, or every one of the Eternals at the very least, and I thought they were going to team up against him. Or, alternatively, I thought everyone was going to team up against the evil Celestial, who at the time I thought was possessing the little boy. Ultimately, I think both of those ideas would have worked out better for this story than what we got. What we got was basically not a whole lot of anything. We have some stuff happens. For example, Cersei, that's the girl right there, she dies to save Mockery, who is the guy right there. And that's about it. Not a whole lot else happens. Now, I'm assuming some of this stuff will get picked up in Volume 2, and I don't think there's a Volume 3. I'm assuming that the Eternal series didn't last very long. If it did last longer than past issue 10, then there aren't any trade paperbacks collecting past that. But honestly, I can say, just from what I've read here, it really didn't deserve to go much further. This was not as good as the Gaiman miniseries, which maybe that's being unfair. Gaiman is a very terrific writer, but I think even if you're not as good of a writer as Neil Gaiman, there are still some things that you could have done with a sequel to that miniseries that would have been better than what we got here. And another problem that I had here, we already had a lot of characters that were kind of thrown into the mix with the Gaiman miniseries. We had 7 or 8 characters, and only 2 or 3 of them were really dealt with in the Gaiman miniseries, and the others were kind of unexplored. And I was thinking maybe this would be a really good opportunity to kind of delve into some of those characters and really get into their minds and kind of get to know them. Instead, this book decides to introduce like 4 or 5 new characters. So we get characters like Phastos and Gilgamesh and Legba, and I'm thinking, we don't need new characters when we've already got several old characters here who aren't really doing anything. For example, Thena and, what's his name? I don't remember the other guy's name. It's not Zuros, but it's kind of Thena's boyfriend, Icarus. Thena and Icarus don't really have anything to do. We see them arguing like 3 issues in this book, but ultimately they're all just kind of running around the planet trying to find Eternals. They don't have anything to do, especially since when they finally do get Phastos to remember who he is, Phastos doesn't do anything. It's like that whole subplot running throughout this entire 6 issues was all for naught. Ultimately, like I said, if you see this somewhere, I'm going to have to recommend don't pick it up. I did not enjoy this, which is a shame because when I read the Gaiman miniseries, I was really excited to get into more stuff about the Eternals, and ultimately, this has kind of cooled my excitement considerably. I think if I ever saw another volume of the Eternals, the only thing that would make me want to pick it up and buy it would be if it was the original Jack Kirby stuff, which I haven't read, but that would basically be the only thing to kind of get me interested in this franchise once again. I can't imagine imagine there would be anyone else out there who could make me interested after this kind of crashed and burned on me. So unfortunately, that's the way I feel about this book. Have you guys read this? What did you think about this miniseries? Or rather, I keep saying miniseries. This is just the first 6 issues of a 10-issue ongoing, as far as I know. What did you guys think about this arc? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below, and if you did like this video, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow to do another kind of video. So I will see you guys then. Have a great day.